in a country where really it's not our main sport, to put it mildly. And this has been 4 times more successful. He told me last night the numbers are 4 times greater. They think 50 or 60 million people are going to be watching the game tonight. I mean, these are getting to be Super Bowl numbers. But you have a game tonight, and they think they're projecting a minimum of 50 million people watching a game. We call it soccer. It's called football, I guess, but we can't really call it football because it gets there's a little confusion. So, yeah, you call it soccer. We're the only ones that do that, but we have football. And football's great. But I've never seen anything like it. So I saw the play, and I'm a person that loves sports and was a good athlete. And I understand sports really well, really well. And that wasn't a foul. That wasn't even an infraction. That was 2 guys running full speed that happened to crash into each other. You can't take your foot and properly place it on somebody else's foot when you're going. No, these were 2 great athletes that got tangled up, and this referee, who is a little bit suspect, if you check his past. I don't want to say that because I don't like to create controversy, but very suspect. If you'd like, I'll provide you with the past. He made a call that nobody could believe. Even people on the other side, they say, "Oh, we got lucky. Wow, and it's very interesting. They say they don't show them in slow motion, and I never realized that. I never heard of that before. That they're not allowed to review in slow motion because it's so different. Because you'll take one little quarter of a second and you'll see that a hand is touching a neck, or you see something. Whereas when you see it in fast motion, it will look like 2 guys collided, which is really what happened. They got sort of entangled. He didn't do anything wrong, and he's our best player or one of our best players, a very vital player. And he gave him a red card. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't think it meant much. Then I started hearing that means he can't play in the next game, at least in the next game. I said, boy, that's a big, if it happened to another player, it would have been unfair. But when they take your best player, or just about, they have some great players, and they say you can't play, that's very unfair. That's, it's one thing to penalize somebody for the game, but how do you penalize them for a game that hasn't been played yet? It's very unfair. You can't do that. So, yes, I asked for a review by FIFA. I spoke to a man who's highly respected, and by the way, whose level of respect has gone up tenfold. And he was good before this started, but he really pushed it in this country. I'm the one that got them to do it. It was not Biden. Biden was asleep. I got him to do it. In fact, it was very sad because I got him to do it. And if the progression was normal, I would have been retired now. The Democrats are saying, man, we should have just let him have his way. We would have had him gone. But I said, the saddest thing is I got the Olympics and I got the World Cup. I tried to claim 250 years, too, but that didn't work. They said, that one is what it is. No, I tried, but it didn't work. But wait. So I got him. I was so proud of it. And then I realized that, I wouldn't be president during that because I would have been out of office by that time. I felt badly. The beautiful thing about what I did is I ran. I never thought of it. And then all of a sudden I realized, I just got the Olympics, and I totally got that myself. And I just got FIFA. I got that myself. We gave a little piece to Canada, gave a little piece to Mexico. I got that myself. And a lot of people helped, like that man right there, Kevin. A lot of people, that. We worked hard on that, and we got it. But what we didn't know is how successful it was going to be. I didn't know. I said, Johnny, is anyone going to show up? Because, we're not really, I think soccer's doing much better, but I couldn't imagine. If you would have said to any very smart of these, like people like this, that the numbers they're doing now would be happening, they've never seen anything like it. Think of it. Take the most successful Olympics or the most successful FIFA, and you look at what's happened. You look at the numbers for this in the United States, just compared to FIFA, and it's numerous times more. It's not like 10% more, 2% more, 5% more, which is more expected. It's like 4 times more successful than anything they've ever done. In fact, I said to Johnny, let's do it again. next time. And he said, that would be hard. I said, no, you do it again. But at the same time, you give it to somebody else for the next one. I don't know. It's a little crazy idea. But all I did, I asked for a review because I didn't think it was a foul. And, again, I'm good at this stuff. I didn't think it was a foul. I thought it was two great athletes that crashed into each other and got entangled. That was not a guy punching somebody in the face or anything that, would be different. And I think it's a terrible, if they wouldn't allow, a top player, maybe the best, maybe among the best players on the team to play, I think it would have had a big stain. And I related just that feel. I didn't tell him what to do. I can't tell him what to do. But and I don't believe he made the decision. I think it was a committee that made the decision. And they made the right decision because, number one, it wasn't a foul. And you want to see a game with your best players. You don't want to say, how would you feel if I took, we take Messi out? Look, he ran into somebody. Or we took Ronaldo, you bunked into somebody, we're going to take you out of a game. He's great. Or Harry Kane, we're going to take you out of the game, Harry, because you happen to hit somebody a little bit harder than you can't do that. If you would have taken him out, I think it would have really stained this incredible champion. We got to have our best players, and Belgium's got a great team, by the way. We got to have our best players, and they have to have their best. And if we win or we lose, it's fair. Otherwise, let's say we lost him and we lose the game. It would be a terrible thing. So I think they made a really brilliant decision. I think the referee's call was horrible. And nobody talks about that. They talk about the red card like it's fine. Nobody talks. The referee's decision to red card. I didn't know what the hell a red card was. When I found out, I said, you got to be kidding. This guy just hands up. Okay, your best player is not going to play next week or in the next game. I said, wow, that's a lot of power. That's terrible. But then I looked at his past, and it wasn't so great. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. President, are we going to talk to the Belgian Prime Minister before the game?
I didn't think of it, but I would. He's a good man. I will tell you this. The people in Belgium, if they win the game, they can be very proud. If they would win the game with a player missing, it would have been a different feeling. You can't do that. And I'm very glad. All I did was ask for a review. I didn't say you have to do this. This man is a smart, tough man, Gianni Infantino. He's a smart, tough man. And his stock has gone through the roof because the job he's done has been great. And I feel we have to have all the best players on the field. You can't take the best players. Yeah, please.
On the Trump accounts, thank you. Liam Cosgrove with Zero Hedge. What is your plan to facilitate broad adoption of these? And you mentioned, the communist issue, particularly that crowd, to get them to participate in this. Yeah. Since I see Anthony Populanos here, and he's probably going to ask, is Bitcoin in any way going to be related to this in the future? Are there plans to put Bitcoin into Trump accounts?
Well, I've become a big crypto guy only for one reason. If we don't have it, China's going to have it, and they would like to have it. But now they're not even trying that hard because we've taken over crypto. But I'm a fan. I wasn't initially. I didn't know much about it. But for some of my first term, I wasn't much involved, but I'd watch. And I watched it grow, and it's a huge industry. And I got involved in it a little bit for politics, because I realized that a lot of people love crypto. And even me as a businessman, I'd see a lot of money starting to come in with Bitcoin and, the different forms. And I said, this thing's got a lot of life. And then I hear China was going to make a heavy move on it, just like they do for AI. By the way, we're leading China substantially in AI, by substantial. And one of the reasons is when they build these big plants, I allow them to build their electric generating units, whether they use nuclear or oil and gas, whatever they want to use, they can use, except wind. We don't allow wind. Wind is terrible. It just doesn't work. It's too expensive, no good, bad for the environment. But and they're building their own plants with some of the greatest electric producing plants that you've ever seen. I mean, they're teaching the companies that produce electricity, they're teaching them how to do a plant. So that was my decision. That was my idea. Because we have an old grid, it's tired, it's old, it would take years to fix it. And now we're actually taking the excess energy that they make. We need more than double the energy. If you take all of the electric that we have now, you need more than double it to power that industry, which is so shocking. When I first heard that, I said, no, you mean like a little, I couldn't believe that, Jeff. I heard more than double. So all the electric we make for everything to power that one industry. Now, with that being said, it's a massive industry, and it's going to be for good. I mean, look, we're going to have guardrails, and we have guardrails. You know, you saw that a couple of weeks ago. We were able to stop something that we didn't like. And by the way, the company was very good. They were very good. You know that. But it can be used for tremendous good, and mostly good and some bad, and the bad we have to stop. But it's a massive industry, and I think things are going to happen. You know what you're seeing here with the kids? I think something could happen in that regard, too, with a contribution to the people of our country. I'll give you a little inside information. Am I allowed to do that, Miss? Well, we have Paul. Am I allowed to do that? That's a little inside information. You understand? Scott, you know what I'm talking about. No, I think you're going to see a contribution made by those because they're making tremendous amounts of money. They're also creating tremendous, the things that are happening in the world of medicine because of AI is not even believed. I'm friends with many doctors because of, you know, what I'm doing as president, and I've become very friendly with a lot of them. They're great. They're great as long as they tell me I'm healthy, okay? When they tell me I'm healthy, so far so good. Where's a piece of wood? But a couple of them got together last week and they said, we can't believe the progress that's been made in disease. Things that they didn't think would happen for 10 years happen in a matter of minutes, a matter of seconds. So that's going to be used for good. But we're leading China by a lot. We're leading everybody. Crypto's the same thing. If we didn't do it, China would do it. It's a massive industry. And frankly, when I went very pro-crypto, as you know, Biden was totally against it, but he has no idea what crypto is. He had no idea. He didn't have a clue. But they were very violently against it. They were putting people in jail. What they were doing to the crypto was horrible. It's amazing it survived that onslaught. It was a weaponization of government.
Joining us, host of the Sports and Culture podcast, the Pablo Torre Finds Out. And MS Now contributor Pablo Torre, sorry about that, Pablo, staff writer for The Atlantic and author of How Soccer Explains the World, Franklin Foer, and founder and host of Men in Blazers and author of We Are the World Cup, Roger Bennett. All right, gentlemen, I frankly could not think of three better people to talk to about this today, so thank you all for saying yes. Pablo, I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame that we're not just talking about the men's team today.
Look, this is the consequence of a story that is so wildly, nationally, globally popular as the U.S. men's national team becoming something that Donald Trump didn't have his fingers on. I mean, it is stunning, Katie, that Flo Balogun, the protagonist of the story ostensibly, was born on July 3rd, 2001. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, because his mom tried to board a plane back to their home in England, and because she was 7 months visibly pregnant, she was not allowed to board, and therefore Flo Balogun was born in America, meaning he is a birthright citizen. And so this same player whose photos you're seeing on this screen becoming the best player on this team at the heart of this miraculous phenomenon that the U.S. men's national team has created while the U.S. is hosting, one of the hosts of this World Cup, is so perfect because this is the same sort of person that Donald Trump's administration has fought to not be a citizen anymore. And so the idea that he is even turning this sort of a character amid all the governance, corruption, scandal stuff that you're describing, the fact that this character is now also apparently someone that Donald Trump is using for his own benefit is kind of mind-blowing on a couple of different levels.
It's richly layered. I think you can put it that way. Let's get into the fundamentals here. Roger, FIFA, what's going on? I thought FIFA had a set of rules. You can't appeal it. The American team couldn't appeal this decision. Why can the president of the United States make a call and get the president of FIFA to look into it?
There's a lot about this story that does not make sense. It does feel like something from WWE where home cooking is the best cooking. There's a lot that's confusing because Balogun got a red card. With that comes a one-game ban, and there is no appeal. but in the FIFA bylaws, there's a section 27, Article 27, that allows FIFA to suspend any suspension. And when they did that, which is unprecedented, only once before 1962 have they just stepped in, and the Brazilian government in that moment were the ones putting the pressure on so that one of their stars could play in the final. There's no explanation given in the moment. So the honest truth is, Katie, we don't know the answer to your question. And the agonising thing from a football perspective, this team is good. This United States team, we've longed for a men's team who can compete. This team plays swaggy football, joyous football. This team has united the nation at a time when we really need to be united. It's been delirious scenes across the coast when they win, and they've won often. The agony for this is that we didn't need this. We didn't have to have this happen to face Belgium tonight and deliver victory. This team could have done it on their own. And if they do win now, part of it is not like this. We didn't need to win like this. We could have done without this. And if they do, there's going to be an asterisk almost in the eyes of the world on every game we play from here on now. That's the agony.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks for the U.S. men's team. It sucks for American fans because you don't want to win and feel like you had to cheat to get there. There's a lot of controversy about the red card itself, and Franklin, a lot of discussion over whether it was deserved, and I think most people fall on the it was not deserved line of things. But even with that, how many people want the President of the United States to intervene and to put that asterisk on it, as Roger was describing?
Well, I think this is something that's very familiar to Americans. We know that Trump has undermined the rule of law in this country, and he's essentially doing the same thing in this tournament. There's a set of procedures here, and those procedures have been followed. And whether we like the outcome of a court decision or a red card, when those procedures are followed, by the dint of being citizens of a country or being participants in a tournament, we have to accept that decision. And one of the great things about this tournament, one of the marvelous, miraculous things, is that you have small countries like Cape Verde that can go toe-to-toe with a bigger, much more powerful country like Argentina. And that's one of the joys of soccer, is that it is an equalizing experience. The World Cup puts everybody on the same plane. But what this decision shows is the way that the powerful countries can accrue advantages by manipulating a corrupt system to their advantage. This is really just kind of a microcosm for the Trump presidency in general.
What's the deal with FIFA, Roger? I mean, they've been renting empty office space out of Trump Tower for a little while now. They presented Donald Trump with the first of its kind FIFA Peace Prize back in December. Everyone talks about how corrupt FIFA is, but I'm going to imagine a lot of my viewers are not super knowledgeable or experts in FIFA. What's the deal with this organization?
I mean, to understand the core of football, to understand the core of the World Cup, to understand why politicians are so fascinated by what we're watching, probably the most joyous World Cup in terms of the outcomes of world football falling in love with America and America falling in love with world football. That's been what has been the kind of theme through the first couple of weeks. But 200 million people watch the Super Bowl. It's giant by American perspective. 5 billion people watch the World Cup. It is a global eclipse that sweeps the entire planet for 39 straight days. And because of that, it's the ultimate orb of power. It's the ultimate catnip for any politician. It's the last global megaphone that when you grasp it, you can speak to everybody. So it's the collusion, ultimately, FIFA, the World Cup, the politicians that are fascinated by it. It's the collusion of football, the commercial might, the commercial heft, which is unparalleled, and then that ability to speak to the nation through it. That's what draws it, and that's what makes FIFA what it is. It has ultimate power, almost is transnational power, and it kind of shapes it to its own will, and we're living it. They're here fleetingly. Next World Cup will be across the planet. The one after that will be in Saudi Arabia, and FIFA goes to places where they can completely control their operation. The last two, one was in Qatar, the one before that was in Putin's Russia. So ultimately, I mean, it is in the thrall of the nation who allow it to come and occupy its space. And right now, that's us. And Donald Trump signaling today, and he's now starting to watch the games. I've got a feeling it's going to ratchet up as we move towards a final that he's already announced he's going to be at and will award the trophy.
Yeah, I mean, Pablo, Donald Trump has inserted himself, and he inserts himself in everything. He went to the Knicks game and caused, a drama here with all the traffic and all the security problems that fans had to get through in order to get to the game, and the outdoor fan celebrations were limited because of that. I mean, he got into it with U.S. men's hockey. He inserted himself into the death of Rob Reiner. Every cultural moment that grabs the attention of Americans and proves to be bigger than him, even in a fleeting moment, he forces his way into. And it's just such a depressing consideration, considering, as we've been talking about, we don't have a lot that unifies us right now. And even on the things that could be unifying moments that transcend this division, the politics of the moment, Donald Trump can't just let it be.
Yeah, he wears sports as a skin suit. And there's a difference between being around and being very visible when it comes to sports and sports broadcasts and luxury boxes. There's a difference between that and also knowing and appreciating and, frankly, loving what the potential of sports can be at its best. And so when you turn sports into everything else, which is the through line in this conversation, I mean, there are only so many places left. There may not be any more, actually, now that this story has happened, where America is plausibly an underdog. We have been in soccer, in world football. And now we're not, because the same thing of using our power and our resources and the transactionality of this administration has resulted in what we see all the time, which is David is just Goliath now. And so why do you use sports? You know, there's one wrinkle here, Katie, I think it's important to point out, because for a lot of people that I'm hearing from, sports fans, of course they see the red card as farcical when it was assigned to Balogun. Of course, as a side note, Donald Trump in his comments today at the White House didn't even know what a red card was he was describing, right? He just didn't know, which is one of those very revealing things you really can't script, but he said it, he admitted it. And now, of course, you're in this scenario where the thing that is supposed to be governed by the rules of law in ways that, frankly, our government isn't, even that is acting the same way. And that's the shame of it, is that it was something where America could feel like it was really almost pure amid a sea of corruption, which is what FIFA is. And now it feels like it's like everything else. And fans, by the way, fans want the U.S. to win. Americans want the U.S. to win. That's why he does it. Because this is, I think, quite popular to get Balogun back on the field. And I think if we forget that that's the power of sports, we'll give you the thing that your heart desires, but at a cost that you don't really know you're paying until years later when you realize, why don't we trust in anything that we believe in when it comes to our institutions anymore? You realize maybe the price was too high in the first place.
With that, let's bring in our leadoff panel, Jeff Mason, White House and Washington correspondent for Bloomberg, Daniela Diaz, congressional reporter for Notice, and Kate Andrews. She is on the Washington Post editorial board. Hey, Jeff, let's start with you. What else do we need to know about this apparent phone call between President Trump and FIFA's president? What are you hearing now from the White House?
Well, I've also spoken to a couple of White House officials about this, who confirmed what your colleagues also confirmed at MS Now, that he placed that call. And I think it just underscores a couple things about President Trump. Number one, that he is someone who's willing to intervene on anything from the Kennedy Center to tearing down the East Wing to calling someone about a soccer game, and a pretty important soccer game, I might add. And the president has developed a relationship with FIFA. I was in the room at the Kennedy Center. I guess that would have been in December when they had the unveiling of where the games were going to be held, and the FIFA presented him with what they call the FIFA Peace Prize. The World Soccer Organization has made a very, very deliberate attempt to build a relationship with this president, and he's making use of that, and that's what he did by placing that call.
Kate, this is the world's most watched sport. Sacrosanct are the rules of FIFA. What are the implications of Trump trying to insert himself in the World Cup like this, how will other teams perceive this, and what impact does it have on Team USA?
Other teams will not be happy about this, but the biggest impact that this has is USA soccer fans. I think the president has misunderstood the beautiful game. Part of it is that you don't always get the call you want. There's real disappointment. There's the hope that kills you. This is part of the beauty of soccer. And the point is that you have to triumph over what are often perceived to be unfair calls. If you were watching England play last night, they got a red card, but you don't see the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom calling up to ask for that to be changed, not least because England has gone through and they continue to be in the knockout rounds. I think the biggest disappointment for me anyway, I'm sure for a lot of Americans, is if the USA continues to advance. And this is one of their best World Cups in decades. I think a lot of people out there will feel like it was unfair, like they didn't actually win it, because part of it is that you have to overcome the adversity and what are perceived to sometimes be unfair calls. You can't have people calling up, making a phone call in your favor to get you the win.
Yeah, the fear is that this could tarnish the incredible success the Team USA has had so far. Daniela, Politico is reporting that Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick was involved himself behind the scenes in these conversations with FIFA to get this suspension lifted. It's according to two people familiar with this. Politico also says that Lutnick has developed a very close relationship, close ties with leadership of soccer's governing body. What does all of this say to you? Is this an example of cabinet officials blurring the lines between policy and politics?
Ariel, I'm not entirely surprised by this reporting, considering that Howard Lutnick was actually at the game where this red card happened. He's a fan of soccer. And also, it's taking place in the United States, where there's several games happening across the country. We're hosting the World Cup. Of course, it shows that there's a special interest from cabinet officials in what's happening in the World Cup, considering it's happening here. But it's not a surprise that he got involved. Also not a surprise that President Donald Trump got involved. He cares a lot about what's happening in the United States. He wants to see the team advance. And by him making that call to Infantino, reportedly did not ask for a reversal of the red card, but had that conversation about that decision and eventually led to that reversal for the player. It's not surprising at all, Ariel, for anyone that has been watching this administration for years, as we have.
Yeah, Trump has always said he likes winners. Jeff, let's talk about a completely separate topic. You have new reporting on Trump's latest round of pardons. Fill us in here.
A handful of pardons, yeah, on Friday, some of which were announced then, and a couple of them trickled out on Saturday. He made a slew of pardons related to the Biden administration and a bunch of folks who had crossed or had broken environmental rules. That's not something that is concerning to the president emissions, and so that's one group of pardons. And then another one, he pardoned someone who was a partner of Jack Abramoff, the former disgraced lobbyist, and then one other, a former Texas mayor who had been convicted of fraud. And in both cases, he said that both of those men had proven, basically, essentially, with their post-conviction lives, that they deserved to have their records clean. One of them, worth noting, is a major Republican donor, and the other had used his ranch had allowed the United States to use his ranch in Texas to do military exercises without charging them. So that's apparently also a way to the president's heart when it comes to pardons.
Kate, this isn't the first president that's issued pardons, and it's been controversial for many decades now. But it's interesting to just look at the timing of all of this. Trump is enacting these pardons about a year and a half into his presidency, which leaves a lot more ground ahead of us, a lot more time. What does that say about what we might see next from President Trump?
Yeah, the timing's a really important point. As you say, Donald Trump is not the first president to do this. He's nowhere near the top of the list so far of the number of acts of clemency. Joe Biden did this for about more than 4,000 people, I believe. Jimmy Carter, of course, hundreds of thousands of people who dodged the Vietnam draft. But the question is the purpose behind it. The president has this power to carry out acts of mercy, to deal with issues of miscarriage of justice. And I think there is a growing feeling, I have to say it started during the Biden administration, and it's certainly carried into Trump's second term, that these are being used as acts to protect people that you care about, people you like, or people that are in your political camp, people who are donating to your party, as we heard before. And I think that's what really leads people to lose trust in the system. It's supposed to be a very special act that the president has and a very special power in order to deal with miscarriages of justice. And instead, we are seeing it increasingly used for political terms. And as you say, the president has years in which he can continue to do this. And he could surpass Joe Biden for the number of acts of clemency he carries out.
One of the things that we've seen squarely come into focus is the president's financial disclosures. Daniela, new reporting from Axios says Democrats are now preparing to issue subpoenas over Trump's massive 2025 profits. What can they actually get done here? What's their plan going forward?
Well, Ariel, this is always the question that Democrats have when it comes to Trump's financial disclosures. Anything that he's done is whether he's committed any wrongdoing. Now, if I were President Donald Trump, I'd be really concerned, especially considering that the midterms are coming up. You said in 120 days. And should Democrats take back the majority in the House, Ariel, that could mean many investigations against Trump. And they would have subpoena power, actual subpoena power, unlike what they have right now in the minority, to investigate Trump and his business dealings. And it could be very, very impactful to the Trump administration and what they plan to do. So while they're actually trying to look into what his earnings were in 2025, should Democrats take back the majority, it could be a much different investigation in just a few months.
It's one thing for lawmakers to be preoccupied by this. You just have to wonder, Kate, Democrats are going to try to keep Trump's profits, his business transactions in the headlines. They're going to try to use this for their messaging for the midterms. But are voters paying attention to that? And how do Democrats then draw the stark contrast between how Trump is profiting and the pain that they're feeling at the pump, that they're feeling at the grocery store? It's pretty stark terms.
Absolutely. The Democrats are going to try to keep this in the news, and the president is making it very easy. We're not talking about minor profiting. We're talking about billions of dollars that the president is getting rich off of by being in the Oval Office. And that's an active decision that he and his family are making. So he is drawing attention to it by continuing to carry out those business interests while he is in the White House. Look, I think the difficulty as well for the president at the moment is that if you were to go to those bread and butter issues, even if some Americans are less interested or not paying as much attention to his own business transactions, what they are paying attention to is inflation. They're paying attention to the cost of gas. The White House knows this. It's one of the reasons we've seen so many pivots with the war in Iran. And those issues are not pulling well for the president at the moment. If the economy were stronger, perhaps there'd be more of a debate, or the Republicans would be able to pivot to other topics. But so long as the economy is in the news, that is a challenging topic for the Republican Party right now. And they clearly do know it, which is why big policy decisions, even foreign policy decisions, are being made based on what they think is going to happen in the midterms.
Yeah, I do want to get to foreign policy. But, Jeff, how do Republicans go back home and answer questions about the economy right now when it clearly seems to not really be the president's focus?
Yeah, it depends on who they're talking to. I mean, again, the president has such a strong political base that no one is concerned on his side of the base, at least not that I've seen, about the fact that he made $1.4 billion off of his crypto businesses. No one is questioning on his side the strength of the economy. That said, there's certainly some upset on the Republican side over the fact that he didn't or hasn't yet signed the housing bill, which was a bipartisan bill that Republicans absolutely wanted to take home and crow about. And Democrats did too. So he's not making it any easier for his Republicans. But I guess to go back to what I said before, it just really depends on the audience that you're speaking to. If you see, if you're speaking to an audience of certainly Democrats, but also that sweet spot of independents that are really, really important for both the midterm elections and the presidential in 2 years, then you've got some weaknesses. If you're speaking to a group of Republicans and of the MAGA base, it just doesn't matter.
So let's talk about the audience of our allies, Jeff. Trump is going to be heading to this NATO summit in Turkey this week. He's, of course, been long critical of the alliance. He said it's ridiculous for the U.S. to continue supporting NATO at the current level that we are. What are we expecting from this summit?
Yeah, really interesting dynamics going into this summit. He's flying to Turkey later tonight. He'll be there arrives there on Tuesday afternoon, and then we'll have the full summit on Wednesday. One of the biggest takeaways, according to U.S. officials that we spoke to yesterday, is that the president will be meeting with President Zelensky of Ukraine, and that is a potential shift of foreign policy momentum away from the Iran war and negotiations there back to negotiations with regard to the Russia incursion into Ukraine. But there is tension over all of those things. There's tension between President Trump and NATO allies about Iran. He feels that NATO allies did not help enough with that war and with opening the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, Europeans would like to see him get more involved again in trying to end the Russia-Ukraine war. So that's going to be certainly one of the big topics. But I will also throw in there that U.S. officials have said that he is still interested in acquiring Greenland. That's a total thorn in the side of the U.S. relationship with Europe and certainly with NATO allies, because Greenland, of course, is a territory of Denmark.
We've got a breaking update to the World Cup controversy that made its way all the way to the White House after President Trump pressured FIFA to reverse the suspension of star player Flo Balogun. America's opponent tonight, Belgium, appealed that reversal. Now FIFA has rejected that appeal. Our senior White House reporter, Vaughn Hilliard, is tracking this. He is temporarily our top FIFA correspondent. Vaughn, it's official now. Balogun is going to play tonight. The president got what he advocated for, or at least questioned when he talked to Gianni Infantino. What is the latest here?
Right. We're about 6 hours from kickoff now here, Ali. And the latest ruling from the appeals committee at FIFA is that the Belgian appeal will not stand. I want to read you part of the statement here from FIFA that we got in just the last few minutes, saying, quote, the FIFA Appeal Committee has rendered a request submitted by the Royal Belgian Football Association as inadmissible. The request was rendered inadmissible on the grounds that the RBFA is not a party to the proceedings and, as such, has no standing to appeal the decision, meaning that Flo Balogun will play tonight. He is the leading striker for the U.S. men's soccer team. He has more goals than any other player in the World Cup here so far. But so much of this has turned beyond being a sports story, but into a political, a diplomatic, a world news story. Because for the first time since 1962, a player that received a red card in a World Cup game is essentially being relieved of the ban, the one-game ban that subsequently comes after a player receives a red card. And Balogun, after President Trump placed a phone call to the head of FIFA here this week, the FIFA making the determination, the disciplinary committee, that red card and that one-game suspension is going to be suspended, meaning that he can play tonight here. But what we have seen here are outcries from not just out of Belgium, but also among the European Football Association that called into question the ethics in the future of what this means when a player receives a red card, because technically a country is not able to appeal a red card determination, which runs counter to what President Trump says that he did. He simply asked for a review, but that is effectively an appeal, and the determination coming out of FIFA here is one that is going to undoubtedly reverberate. So if you're a U.S. soccer fan, you should hope that the U.S. pulls away with a several-goal victory here tonight, because this is stemming not just into a sports story, but one in which there is great frustration about the head of the state, President Donald Trump, calling in what could be seen as a favor. Infantino has pushed back, saying that it went through its due course of proceedings. But at the same time, folks will recall that back in December, Infantino gave Donald Trump the first ever FIFA World Peace Prize up on stage over at the Kennedy Center, an award that never existed until Infantino gave it to Donald Trump. So there's a lot here at stake. But it appears that Flo Balogun will be playing tonight after FIFA rejected Belgium's appeal. Ali.
Yeah, and I think for those like me, and I think you who are cheering for the U.S. during this, it's going to be exciting to see this star player back on the field, especially for those of us who thought that the red card in its first instance was bogus. And yet you're right that this just begs so many questions. And when is the last time that any president picked up the phone and called the head of FIFA and said, hey, you want to review that? I mean, that is one of the central reasons that this is not just a sports story. It is now something that has taken on a more ethical question in the world of sports and beyond. Vaughn Hilliard, thank you for that update. Keep us posted.
The world's biggest sporting event has suddenly become a political story, all thanks to Donald Trump. Trump confirmed today that he asked FIFA President Gianni Infantino to review the suspension of American star forward Folarin Balogun, who received a red card last week for tonight's World Cup knockout match against Belgium. And in an extraordinary move, FIFA did lift that suspension. Trump basically put it all out in the open this morning, admitting he involved himself in the decision. Watch.
I spoke to Johnny, who's highly respected, who's produced the most successful World Cup in history by, they say, 4 times. This isn't just a success. I actually said, Johnny, we've got all these games. Each one is turning out to be a Super Bowl. I saw the play, and I'm a person that loves sports and was a good athlete, and I understand sports really well, really well. And that wasn't a foul. That wasn't even an infraction. So, yes, I asked for a review by FIFA. I spoke to a man who's highly respected. If they wouldn't allow, a top player, maybe the best, maybe among the best players on the team to play, I think it would have had a big stain. And I related just that feel. I didn't tell him what to do. I can't tell him what to do, but and I don't believe he made the decision. I think it was a committee that made the decision, and they made the right decision.
The close relationship between Gianni Infantino and Trump has increasingly drawn scrutiny over the last year, with Infantino personally inventing a FIFA Peace Prize to bestow upon Trump at the same time that Trump was ordering lethal strikes in the Caribbean, and with FIFA opening an office inside Trump Tower in New York. This latest show, though, of preferential treatment is leaving many U.S. fans feeling conflicted about cheering on the return of their star player, and the rest of the soccer world left outraged. Belgium appealed the decision to allow Balogun to play this morning, hours before the high-stakes match is going to take place. But that appeal was denied this afternoon by FIFA. I want to bring in national sports columnist and professor of journalism at the University of Maryland, Kevin Blackistone. Also joining us, former Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs during the Obama administration, political analyst Rick Stengel is here, and Eamon is still here at the table with me. Kevin, I'm going to start with you. Questions over this red card put aside for a second. Just how much has the political influence seen throughout this entire tournament been a stain on the World Cup?
Well, it's been a stain that's not going to go away. And if the U.S. is fortunate to beat Belgium this evening, it's going to be with an asterisk on that win, because that's what Donald Trump has done. He has stained this entire event. Look, I said before the World Cup came here, after it was certain to be here, after it started, I wrote it. This country with the Trump administration is unfit to host any global sporting event, given its unethical and immoral treatment of our foreign neighbors and citizens. And we've seen it play out throughout this entire World Cup, from a referee who was not allowed to do his job here because of his nationality, to the way the Iranian team has been treated as if they're some sort of terrorist cell. And now you have this. I said that, we often say that game respects game. Well, corruption respects corruption, too. And that's exactly what we've had here. And maybe the worst part of it is that this isn't a FIFA event that has been corrupted in the bidding process, which we hear so much about and have read so much about. But now the actual game itself that is going to be played before tens of millions of people has been corrupted. And maybe the outcome of that has been changed because of Donald Trump's desire to put his thumb on the outcome. That really hasn't happened before, but that has happened this time.
Eamon, I want to read for you. The FIFA president put out a statement today that some people thought was a little too little, too late. FIFA's judicial bodies are independent. He said they operate autonomously, apply the FIFA disciplinary code, and decide cases based on the applicable regulations and the specific facts before them. Their independence is essential to the credibility and integrity of football. your reaction here? I mean, look, I know that you're basically like MS Now's resident soccer expert. For any of our viewers who didn't already know that, Eamon is the person who explains everything that's going on in soccer to me. So, I mean, do you buy any of this?
It's nonsense. And the reason why it's nonsense, to Kevin's point, which I think is very important, is about how FIFA has conducted itself throughout this tournament. And the reason why that's important is because if FIFA was able to stand up and protect its own referee that was denied entry to the United States, if FIFA was able to stand up to Donald Trump and say, look, you're hosting this tournament, we would like for you to treat the Iranian team with the respect and dignity that athletes from around the world deserve. We would like for you to allow them to stay in this country. If they were able to at least express that, you would believe the statement from FIFA today that, hey, our bodies are independent and we don't cave to political pressure. But what we have seen from FIFA throughout this tournament, and what we've seen from Infantino particularly, is that he caves to Donald Trump's pressure. And because he has allowed Donald Trump and the United States in this current climate to do what it has been doing, he lacks the credibility to be able to stand up there and say that this was an independent decision. It's not just the lack of credibility that he brings to the table. It's the timing of how all of this played out. Referees make decisions all of the time. They get wrong decisions all of the time. That's not new to the sport of soccer. They've been trying to improve that. They've been trying to involve a review process with a virtual assistance referee. But this is not what that case is. What happened in that particular red card opened the door for Donald Trump to intervene, and intervene in such a vulgar way that he has now taken ownership of that intervention.
He really has.
He has taken
posting
ownership
on
of
Truth
it.
Social.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so the fact is that even if FIFA wanted to pretend that it is independent and did not succumb to that pressure, Donald Trump has come out and told us, no, he did intervene in that process. And I think even this statement that was put up by FIFA, in which the president of FIFA came out and said, I get called by world leaders all the time. I get calls from the head of corporations. I get called from the head of FAs. That, again, is part of the problem that a lot of people who have been raising questions about FIFA's conduct are worried about, is that FIFA is openly telling us that they are subject to this type of treatment and these types of interactions, that people are starting to lose confidence in the way they make decisions, whether it's about hydration breaks in the middle of the game, which never happened before the World Cup was brought to the United States, or whether for only the second time in the history of FIFA, reversing a red card decision.
Yeah, the last one was like in 1962,
correct,
I think. Yeah. Okay. Rick, I mean, has this whole World Cup, given everything that Kevin, that Eamon just spelled out there, has it basically become a metaphor for what's going on, not just here domestically, but across the world, for the way that Trump is operating and others around him respond to the pressure that he keeps applying?
Yes, Antonio, more than a metaphor. I guess the expression I've been thinking about is there's no honor among thieves. As both our guests suggested, I mean, FIFA is not a holier-than-thou organization. The former head of FIFA had to resign for corruption. It's a byword among organizations that is able to influence people. What Trump did is absolutely in character for him. But I would say Mr. Infantino is the real culprit, in the sense that I can try to bribe somebody around the corner, and if the person says, I don't accept bribes, get out of here, then that person is honorable. Trump tried to bribe him. He accepted the bribe. And it also does something terrible to something that we've talked about on the show for many times before, American soft power. The U.S. as the host of FIFA was meant to be like a great kind of milestone for American soft power around the world. And because of Trump's behavior, because of all the things that Eamon had said as well, it's become instead a byword for American corruption, for lack of American equality. And that's just a sad thing.